Hello and welcome to the channel. We have a new video today. The girl in the picture is Russian gymnast Kamila Valieva. The video talks about the sports that Valieva has been experiencing in the course of her participation in world skating, and in this video we will talk about problems and context. Problems like news coverage, application of punishment in sport, are the rules fair, and so on. And the context includes structures of sporting bodies, prejudice, the real power politics in sporting bodies, like who gets the top job. And this is where it really gets interesting. So in international bodies, like let's have a few of them: WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency, IOC, International Olympics Committee, CAS, Court of Arbitration for Sport, IAAF, International Amateur Athletics Federation, ICAS, the International Council of Arbitration for Sport, which is the governing body of CAS above, and also ISU, the International Skating Union. So the politics and the structure of power relations inside these international sporting bodies is central to this special investigation. So this is where it really gets interesting in international sporting bodies. So politics and influence, and also domination. So sports and prejudice of empire. So we're talking about, there is a supposition here. There is a supposition of domination by Anglo-Saxons in the international sport structure. So the question is there an Anglo-Saxon domination in the international sports structure? So we will try to answer this question in the course of this video. So talking about Anglo-Saxon, so some of you might ask, what does it mean? Do Anglo-Saxons even exist? I can tell you that they do exist, and for a long time, my friend. An even-handed investigation needs to identify the problems in the research. So I've identified a number of problems in the definition of and context of Anglo-Saxon. So problematic one, Anglo-Saxon does not mean only the 5 Anglo nations, not only the 5 Anglo-Saxon white majority English-speaking countries, which are the United Kingdom, United States, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand. So it's not confined only to these 5 Anglo nations. The second problematic is there is a wider political and cultural context. There is a wider socio-cultural and political context in the definition of Anglo-Saxon, and this, in a nutshell, we call it not just Anglo-Saxon by geographical or racial group, but also the wider Anglo-Saxon worldview. And even then, there is a variety of opinion. There is disagreement and dissent, and inside the Anglo-Saxon circle itself. So for more information, please consult reference 1 and 2, and I will leave them in the description box below the video. Problematic 3, prejudice is not limited to the Anglos, not just the white Anglos, not just the white. Prejudice by Anglo-Saxon doesn't mean prejudice only by white Anglo-Saxons versus non-Anglo-Saxons. So people of African, Chinese, Semitic origin can also be Anglo-Saxon. So just because someone has darker skin does not mean that they cannot hold an Anglo-Saxon worldview. So it's pretty much international, kind of well-coordinated group, even though it is not well-defined, but it's well-coordinated. So it's the coordination and the effectiveness that make the Anglo-Saxon important to this video. Anglo-Saxon is also, as we said, a function of education and culture and so on. So if someone went to the London School of Economics, then you're likely to be influenced by views in British School of Economics or schools of economics, the Manchester School. You have got development economics and the third way, etc. So it's pretty much an international Anglo-Saxon worldview. First part of this special investigation, we speak about context again. So an important question that we need to ask is democracy and prejudice inside the international sporting bodies, the exercise of democratic control in the decision making and the application of fairness in the exercise of exclusions and so on. So is there real democracy there or not? So we'll try to find out. So back to domination in sport and prejudice in sport. So what are we talking about here? If you recall earlier the reference to Anglo-Saxon domination in world sports. So if such domination exists, where is it? Is it real? And if it's real, where is it? So before we move on, if this video is taken down, you draw your own conclusions, okay? Meantime, let's find out if there is Anglo-Saxon domination in international sports, and what makes it Anglo-Saxon. So some facts first. If you remember the lady in the picture is 15-year-old Kamila Valieva, and please pay attention to the 14th of February, Monday the 14th of February. It's I call it day 0, so it's like a baseline reference, because it's a day one of the international sporting bodies, CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, ruled in favor of Kamila Valieva. So let's find the background to this, to the story. So the first fact, gymnast from Russia, Valieva, submitted a sample for laboratory testing on 25th of December last year. The sample was tested and came back positive for a banned substance, TMZ, has a number of names, TMZ or Vasterol MR, which is banned by WADA. So if you remember, WADA is short for World Anti-Doping Agency. The circumstances of this sample coming back positive will be I will talk about it later on in the video. The World Anti-Doping Agency, what's important is that the doping ban by WADA was applicable since about 8 years ago. Please look at reference 3. The lab delivered the result, the sample result, 40 days after it received the sample, which is 1 day after Valieva won her medal with the Russian team in the group skating. So she's won the group medal, the gold medal with the Russian team in the Winter Olympics in Beijing. And this result applies to a test that happened before the Olympic Games in Beijing. And it was 40 days. So it's a curious timing, because according to the rules, for the guidelines, that the sample the sample result should come by in about 20 days from the day it was taken. Doping agency in Russia allowed Valieva to compete. So she was suspended first by the Russian doping agency, and then the suspension was lifted. And then WADA and IOC applied to reimpose the suspension. So it was a bit of a mess there. Lift the suspension, and then apply to reimpose the suspension. And then on the 14th of February, which is day 0, CAS, the Court of Arbitration for Sport, ruled to uphold the Russian doping agency decision to lift the suspension and dismiss the application by IOC to reimpose the suspension. So quite a lot happening there in the Valieva case. Now, after all this, we can raise the question, pause it here, and say, is Valieva receiving a fair treatment? And are all athletes in the general context and nations treated equally? So investigation terms of reference, and this is purely an arbitrary choice by myself. So to investigate if the Anglo-Saxons, the British, Americans, Australians, New Zealanders, and Canadians, do they dominate international sporting relations? And the second question, to what extent is the discourse, decisions, and public perception shaped or influenced by Anglo-Saxons or contain a bias against non-Anglo-Saxon athletes and their nations? So these are pretty two serious, well-defined, I hope, questions to be answered by this investigation. In order to answer the question, let's look at the top jobs, the senior positions in a number of international sporting bodies. So IAAF, the International Athletic Amateur Athletics Federation, is chaired by Lord Coe. Lord Coe is the chairman of IAAF since 2015. So one British guy heading IAAF, and then Mark Adams is the Director General of the Director of Communications, I beg your pardon, of the International Olympic Committee, another British guy sitting at the top job, or a top job, of an international sporting body. WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency, is the Director General is Olivier Nigli. He is a Swiss national, so he's not Anglo-Saxon in that definition, but he is UK and Canada educated. So he's earned 2 master's degrees from the UK and Canada. He's been the Director General of WADA since 6 years ago, and before that he held a number of positions in the organization. So he's Anglo-Saxon by connection and by education. So look at reference 4, please, in the description box below the video. ICAS, the International Council of Arbitration of Sports, is John D. Coates, an Australian national and Anglo-Saxon. So you can see the what I'm getting at here. So the top jobs, the top positions in international sports, you can see that Anglo-Saxons are strategically placed. Anglo-Saxons are strategically placed, or seem to be so, in very senior positions in the hierarchy of international sporting bodies. So some reflection now. So again, back to the question, what is Anglo-Saxon? I mean, we've made definitions, we've identified problems in the research and the application of the making and application of the definition. So what is it? What is an Anglo-Saxon? So I presented Olivier Negli, who is not a citizen of an Anglo-Saxon country. It's not a white majority English-speaking country, and he doesn't even speak English as first language. So I've done that on purpose. I wanted to give an example of an Anglo-Saxon influence. So that's by education, sympathies, or connection. In contrast to Anglo-Saxon by birth, racially or by citizenship. So it is clearly an area where one needs to be precise in the naming and defining of terms. So Anglo-Saxon influence, in a nutshell, is what that gives this game away. Anglo-Saxon influence rather than just Anglo-Saxon identity. So talking about Anglo-Saxon influence, what about Anglo-Saxon influence in media? In the sport codes, that means who writes the sport codes, who communicates sport codes, and the arbitration in international disputes, and also the laboratory testing procedures of athletes. Big question. I just to keep people awake. If this video is too long, I have a question for you, viewers of this video. So in the course of making this video, I had to check dozens of articles and videos, and none of them have named the laboratory in Sweden. It was a Swedish laboratory, which where the result, the positive result for the Valieva sample, the sample that was submitted by Valieva, came back positive with a banned substance. So all these news articles and videos that I consulted, and believe me, there was so many of them, none of them have named the actual laboratory. So kind of curious why that is so. If you can find the name of the WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency approved lab in Stockholm, the capital of Sweden. So if you can identify the lab that did the testing of the sample given by Valieva, please put that in a comment below the description box. Now here is a $64,000 question. Which empire are we talking about? So we said prejudice and empire, Anglo-Saxons and empire. Which empire are we talking about? Look at the map and try to at least guess the answer to the question. Now, in our next video of this special investigation in part 2, we're going to talk about a few things, talking about media manipulation, what I call the shifting narrative, the like quicksand, the twisting and turn, and the twist and turn in the reporting of stories. Okay. The disputes mean people go to arbitration, So in international sports, when there is a dispute, people go to arbitration naturally. The question is, how fair is arbitration? So we will shed more light on fairness in arbitration. We'll talk about sport testing, biopower, and trial by media, and we will talk about we'll have some interviews with people. I have some questions for you, people who have been following me patiently. What is day 0 again? Do you know the unnamed Swedish lab that did the testing on the sample that came back positive with TMZ, a banned substance? And which empire are we talking about? It's the empire of what? So leave your answer in the comments, please. And this is the photo credit for the 2 pictures in the video. And that's all for today. I will put the updates in the description box below the video, so check that regularly, please, for referencing on more information. And until then, stay well and goodbye.